Welcome to Lesson 6.6 of the Gantt Architect course. In this lesson, we explore the management plan, a critical component that describes how you will implement and oversee the proposed project. The management plan answers the question, how will you actually run this project? Funders need confidence that you have thought through implementation details. A strong management plan demonstrates organizational capacity and reduces perceived risk. By the end of this lesson, you will understand the essential elements of effective management plans, how to present them compellingly, and how to address common concerns reviewers have about project oversight and implementation. Management plans matter significantly to funders for multiple important reasons. Implementation confidence demonstrates you can execute the vision effectively. Great ideas fail without good management and careful planning. Funders want to see that you have thought through how to actually do the work on a day-to-day basis. Risk reduction shows systems to prevent and address problems proactively. What could go wrong? How will you prevent it? How will you respond if problems arise despite your best efforts? Management plans address these concerns directly and comprehensively. Accountability establishes who is responsible for what throughout the project. Clear roles and responsibilities prevent confusion and enable accountability at every level. Each element should have an owner who is responsible for its success. Coordination explains how parts work together seamlessly. Complex projects have many moving parts. Management plans show how elements integrate into a coherent whole. Key components of effective management plans address the fundamental questions reviewers have about implementation. Organizational structure describes how the project team is organized and how positions relate to each other. Include an organizational chart if helpful. Clarify reporting relationships and decision-making authority. Show how the project fits within your broader organization. Roles and responsibilities specify what each team member will do. Avoid vague descriptions. Be specific about who is responsible for which activities and deliverables. Ensure complete coverage with no gaps and no overlaps that create confusion. Coordination mechanisms explain how team members will work together. How often will the team meet? How will information be shared? How will handoffs between team members occur? Describe the systems that enable collaboration. Decision-making processes clarify how choices will be made throughout the project. Who has authority for which types of decisions? How are disagreements resolved? What requires approval from leadership? Risk management identifies potential problems and planned responses. What could go wrong? How will you prevent problems? How will you respond if problems occur despite prevention efforts? Organizational structure describes how the project is arranged. Org charts provide visual representation of project structure. A well-designed org chart quickly communicates how the project is organized. Include key positions and relationships. Reporting lines establish clear chain of authority. Each position should know who they report to. Authority should flow logically from leadership down. Advisory bodies include committees, boards, or advisory groups. Many projects have advisory committees, community boards, or scientific advisory groups. Describe their role and relationship to the project. Partner integration shows how partners fit in the structure. If you have partner organizations, how do they relate to project leadership? Are partners at the table for decisions? Roles and responsibilities documentation ensures everyone understands who does what throughout the project. Effective role descriptions include several key elements. Position titles should be clear and meaningful. Use titles that accurately reflect responsibilities and that reviewers will understand. Internal designations may need translation into more standard terminology. Reporting relationships clarify accountability structures. Who does each position report to? Who supervises whom? Clear reporting prevents confusion about authority and accountability. Include these relationships in your organizational chart and narrative descriptions. Primary responsibilities identify the core functions of each position. What are the main things this person will do? Be specific enough that reviewers understand the actual work involved. Avoid vague phrases like assist with project activities. Decision authority specifies what each position can decide independently versus what requires approval. This prevents bottlenecks while ensuring appropriate oversight. Time allocation indicates how much time each position will dedicate to specific responsibilities. This should align with your staffing table and budget. If a position has multiple responsibilities, indicate how time divides among them. Backup arrangements describe who covers when primary staff are unavailable. Projects continue even when individuals are sick, on vacation, or leave the organization. Planning for coverage demonstrates thoughtful management. Decision-making processes provide clarity about authority and accountability throughout project implementation. Effective descriptions of decision-making address several dimensions. Authority levels specify who can make which types of decisions. Perhaps the project director approves expenditures under $1,000, while larger purchases require executive director approval. Perhaps clinical decisions rest with licensed professionals, while administrative decisions follow a different path. Clarify these boundaries. Consultation requirements identify when input from others is needed before decisions. Some decisions may require consulting with partners, advisory boards, or funders. Describe these requirements and how consultation will occur. Escalation procedures explain what happens when decisions exceed normal authority or when team members disagree. How are conflicts resolved? When do issues move to higher levels of authority? Clear escalation paths prevent paralysis. Documentation requirements specify how decisions will be recorded and communicated. Important decisions should be documented for accountability and institutional memory. Describe your systems for recording and sharing decisions. Timeline expectations indicate how quickly decisions will be made. Grant-funded projects often operate on tight timelines. Describe your commitment to timely decision-making that keeps implementation on track. Communication structures enable coordination and accountability. Internal communication includes team meetings, reports, and updates. How often does the team meet? What reporting systems exist? Regular communication keeps everyone aligned. Partner communication explains how partners stay informed and engaged. If you have partner organizations, how do you communicate with them? Regular meetings, shared platforms. Strong partnerships require strong communication. Funder communication covers reporting and relationship management. Beyond required reports, how do you communicate with funders? Proactive communication builds relationships. Stakeholder communication addresses engaging broader audiences. How do you communicate with participants, community members, or other stakeholders? Consider all audiences. Quality assurance describes how you will ensure project activities meet intended standards throughout implementation. This demonstrates attention to excellence beyond mere compliance. Quality standards define what good looks like for your project. What standards will guide your work? These might include professional standards, evidence-based practice requirements, funder specifications, or internal benchmarks. Articulate the standards you will apply. Monitoring mechanisms describe how you will track quality during implementation. Will you conduct observations, review documentation, collect feedback, or use other methods? Describe your monitoring approach and frequency. Who is responsible for quality monitoring? Improvement processes explain what happens when monitoring reveals quality concerns. How will problems be identified and addressed? Describe your continuous improvement approach, including how feedback flows and how changes are implemented. Staff development addresses how you will build and maintain team capacity for quality work. Training, supervision, coaching, and professional development all contribute to quality. Describe your investments in staff development. Fidelity to model is particularly important for evidence-based interventions. If you are implementing a specific model or curriculum, describe how you will ensure faithful implementation while allowing appropriate adaptation. Risk management addresses what could go wrong. Risk identification asks what could go wrong. Staff turnover, partner withdrawal, recruitment challenges, budget shortfalls, identify potential risks systematically. Assessment evaluates likelihood and impact of risks. Not all risks are equal. Some are likely but minor. Others are unlikely but catastrophic. Assess both dimensions. Mitigation includes strategies to prevent or minimize risks. What can you do to prevent risks from occurring? How can you reduce their impact if they do occur? Prevention is preferable. Contingency includes plans if risks materialize. Despite prevention, some risks may occur. What is your backup plan? Contingency planning demonstrates foresight. Timeline and milestones translate your work plan into a temporal framework that demonstrates realistic scheduling. This component shows you understand how long activities take and how they sequence. Timeline structure might use a Gantt chart, milestone table, or narrative description depending on funder preference and project complexity. Choose a format that clearly communicates your schedule. Phase organization groups activities into logical time periods. Many projects have distinct phases such as startup, implementation, and closeout. Describe what happens in each phase and how phases connect. Milestone identification marks key achievements throughout the project period. Milestones should be specific, verifiable accomplishments rather than vague progress claims. They create accountability checkpoints. Dependencies acknowledge that some activities must complete before others can begin. Your timeline should reflect these logical relationships. If staff must be hired before training can occur, and training must complete before services begin, your timeline should show this sequence. Contingency planning addresses what happens if timelines slip. Some buffer should be built in. Describe how you will respond to delays while still meeting overall project goals and funder expectations. Monitoring and reporting describes how you will track progress and communicate with funders throughout the grant period. This demonstrates accountability and partnership orientation. Progress tracking explains your internal systems for monitoring implementation. What data will you collect? How often will you review progress? Who is responsible for tracking? Describe the systems that keep you informed about how implementation is proceeding. Internal reporting describes how information flows within your organization. How will project staff report to leadership? How will leadership stay informed? Regular internal reporting enables timely problem identification and response. Funder reporting specifies how you will meet reporting requirements to the funder. Most grants require periodic progress reports. Describe your understanding of these requirements and how you will fulfill them. Address timeline, format, and content expectations. Data management explains how you will collect, store, and use data for monitoring and reporting. This includes both implementation data and outcome data. Describe your data systems and how you will ensure data quality and security. Evaluation connection links monitoring to formal evaluation activities. How do routine monitoring and formal evaluation relate? Describe how monitoring data will inform evaluation and how evaluation findings will inform ongoing implementation. Common management plan mistakes undermine credibility. Too vague means generic descriptions without specificity. Saying you will hold regular meetings means little. Specify weekly team meetings on Mondays to review progress. Be specific. Unrealistic means plans that cannot actually be implemented. If your timeline is impossible or your staffing insufficient, reviewers will notice. Ground management plans in reality. Missing elements means key components not addressed. If you discuss staffing but not communication or timeline but not risk, important gaps exist. Cover all essential elements. Disconnected means management not aligned with activities. The management plan should clearly connect to project activities. If activities and management seem like separate documents, integration is needed. Presenting management plans effectively combines formats. Visual elements include org charts, timelines, and flowcharts. Visual representations communicate structure quickly. A Gantt chart shows timeline more effectively than paragraphs of text. Tables organize information efficiently. Roles matrices show who is responsible for what. Risk registers list risks with likelihood, impact, and mitigation. Tables enable comparison. Narrative provides connecting text explaining visual elements. Visuals alone may not be self-explanatory. Brief narrative connects and explains visual information. Balance provides enough detail without overwhelming. Management plans should be comprehensive but not exhaustive. Include essential information. Avoid excessive detail on minor elements. Here is a practical exercise to apply what you have learned. Step 1. Create an org chart for your project. Show positions, reporting relationships, and any advisory bodies. Visual representation clarifies structure. Step 2. Write role descriptions for key personnel. For each key position, describe responsibilities, time allocation, and how qualifications match the role. Step 3. Develop a project timeline with milestones. Create a visual timeline showing major phases and key milestones. Identify dependencies between activities. Step 4. Identify 3 risks and mitigation strategies. What could go wrong? How likely is each risk? What will you do to prevent or respond to each? Let us summarize the key points from this lesson. Management plans are essential for demonstrating implementation capacity. They show funders you have thought through how to actually execute the proposed work. Key elements include organizational structure, roles and responsibilities, decision-making processes, communication systems, and risk management. Each element contributes to the overall picture. Presentation should combine visual and narrative elements. Org charts, timelines, and tables communicate efficiently. Narrative connects and explains. In our next lesson, we will explore partnership taxonomy, focusing on the different types and levels of partnerships and how to describe them appropriately in proposals.